free college football picks. This is week number 12, part 4. I'm Tony T here with our college football pick show here for Thursday. We have the game on Thursday, plus we'll have 9 from Saturday. That'll be our part 4 year 4 this week. We're going to get all 63 in, so the next couple of weeks we'll get 10 more in, and we'll get there. So after this show, we will have 43 games in for you and 20 more to go. Before we get underway, just a couple of things. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NFL, we have NBA, we have college basketball, NHL, and more. It is a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, like this video, give us that thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com, our multi-capper site showcasing our top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers, get signed up to our long-term passes. You'll see many of them up there right now. Guys like Collins, who's been hot, Brandon's been hot, Ramon has been on fire, Nick, and Paul as well. So click the links to get signed up to a long-term pass. I've been doing well in college football and NFL past 30 days. Click the links to get signed up to some of our long-term passes. You'll see our premium picks here in the center of the page. You'll also find our best bets. These are our cappers can post one best bet per sport per day. Many are up there right now, and we'll see also our $15 premium pick. Each capper can designate one of their picks on their card as a $15 premium pick. Many are up there as well. 3-packs are great values, so check them out. We have a pick ticker here for a la carte purchase of individual games. I'll make note here of our promo code. You can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use the promo code TonyT at checkout, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab and get signed up. Also, love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. And we are looking for cappers, so you can apply over on our footer section. And, of course, our podcast. Every pick and podcast forum at Tony's Picks, the podcast. Search Tony's Picks on all major platforms. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. SMU versus Tulane. College football pick. This is on Thursday. SMU moves to 6-4 with their 41-23 road win at USF. Mustangs gained 553 yards in this one, 273 rushing on 41 carries. Defensively, SMU allowed nearly 4.5 yards per rush to the Bulls with 202 passing on 34 attempts. Tanner Mordecai completed 70% of his passes with 10.4 yards per attempt. He passed for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the year, Mordecai, a 63% completion rate with 8.5 yards per attempt. Tulane fell to 8-2 after their 38-31 home defeat to UCF. Green Wave gained 391 yards, 155 rushing on 27 carries. Defensively, they limited the UCF passing attack but allowed 336 rushing on 54 carries. Michael Pratt completed 59% of his passes, 6.1 yards per attempt. He did pass for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year. Pratt, a 65% completion rate, 8.3 yards per attempt. Mustang offense on a roll right now. Past 3 games, they're averaging 554 yards, 5.1 yards per rush, 323 passing with 10.5 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be SMU at plus 3.5. Miami versus Clemson, college football pick Saturday. Miami improved to 5-5 with their 35-14 road win at Georgia Tech. Hurricanes gained 353 yards with 217 rushing on 44 carries. Defensively, Miami allowed nearly 5 yards per rush with 234 passing on 43 attempts. Ja'Carri Brown completed 74% of his passes, 7.2 yards per attempt. He threw for 136 yards and 3 touchdowns. This season, Brown a 61% completion rate with 5.6 yards per attempt. Clemson improved to 9-1 with their 31-16 home win to Louisville. Tigers gained 439 yards in this one with 248 rushing on 45 carries. On defense, they allowed 5 yards per rush to the Cardinals with 250 passing on 37 attempts. DJ Uiagalelei completed 70% of his passes, 6.9 yards per attempt. On the year, Uiagalelei, a 65% completion rate, 7.2 yards per attempt. Hurricanes have struggled against strong quarterbacks play. We saw behind Florida State and Duke. Tigers have struggled in run defense the past 3 games, allowing 5.1 yards per attempt. Would expect Miami to keep this one on the ground. The play here will be Miami plus 19. FAU versus Middle Tennessee State, college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. FAU is 5-5 with their 52-7 road win at FIU. Alice posted 385 yards, 281 rushing on 60 carries. Defensively, they limited FIU passing game to 74 yards, allowed 203 rushing on 36 carries. N'Kosi Perry completed 63% of his passes for 4.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus rushed for 2 touchdowns. Perry on the season, a 57% completion rate with 7.1 yards per attempt. Middle Tennessee State improved to 5-5 with that 24-14 home win to Charlotte. Blue Raiders gained 306 yards with 103 rushing on 34 carries. Defensively, MTSU held the 49ers to nearly 3.5 yards per rush with 277 passing on 49 attempts. Nicholas Vitatio completed 76% of his passes with 7 yards per attempt. He threw for 203 yards with an interception and fumble. On the season, Vitatio, 65% completion rate, 6.4 yards per attempt. Starter Chase Cunningham has missed the last game and reason was undisclosed. Back-to-back road games for FAU. They have put together back-to-back wins as they defeated UAB at home 2 weeks ago. Last 3 games, FAU is allowing 6 yards per rush attempt. Would believe that the Blue Raiders may look to run more with their backup under center. Play here will be Middle Tennessee State here at +6. Ohio State versus Maryland college football pick Saturday. Ohio State improved to 10-0 with their 56-14 home win to Indiana. Buckeyes gained 662 yards with 340 rushing with 43 carries. Defensively, they did allow over 3.5 yards per rush to the Hoosiers with 119 passing on 29 attempts. C.J. Stroud completed 61% in the win, 10.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 297 yards and 5 touchdowns. This year, Stroud a 67% completion rate, 9.9 yards per attempt. Maryland fell to 6-4 with their 30-0 road defeat at Penn State. Terrapins gained a season-low 134 yards, 60 rushing on 37 carries. On defense, the Terrapins allowed nearly 6 yards per rush with 164 passing on 30 attempts. Talia Tagliavoa completed 50% of his passes, 3.4 yards per attempt. This season, Tagliavoa, a 68% completion rate with 7.7 yards per attempt. Maryland back home where the weather should be better. At home, the Terrapins are moving the football for 437 yards, 5.1 yards per rush, 261 passing with 7.9 yards per attempt. Buckeyes offense past 3 games averaging 465 yards, 6.2 yards per rush, 8.4 yards per attempt to play. Ohio State and Maryland over 62.5. Louisiana Tech versus Charlotte college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Louisiana Tech fell to 3-7 with their 51-7 road defeat to UTSA. Bulldogs gained 259 yards with 112 rushing on 31 carries. Defensively, they surrendered nearly 6 yards per rush to the Roadrunners with 226 passing on 30 carries. Landry Liddy completed 54% with 5.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 138 yards and a touchdown with 2 interceptions. This season, Liddy a 64% completion rate, 6.1 yards per attempt. The freshman played for Parker McNeil, who has completed 57% of his passes with 8.9 yards per attempt. Now, Charlotte are 2-9 after their 24-14 road defeat at Middle Tennessee State. 49ers gained 383 yards with 106 rushing on 38 carries. Defensively, they held the Blue Raiders to 3 yards per rush with 203 passing on 29 attempts. Chris Reynolds, 57% completion in this one, 5.7 yards per attempt. He passed for 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now this year, Reynolds' 63% completion rate, 7.9 yards per attempt. Louisiana Tech defense is giving up 500 yards per game on the road. Charlotte, 529 at home. 49ers do a good job of moving that football through the air at home with their experienced quarterback. The play will be Louisiana Tech and Charlotte over 64.5. Iowa versus Minnesota college football pick Saturday. Iowa improved to 6-4 with their 24-10 home win to Wisconsin. Hawkeyes gained just 146 yards in this one with 52 rushing on 45 carries. Defensively, they limited the Badgers to less than 2 yards per rush, 176 passing on 35 attempts. Spencer Petras completed 61% of his passes, 4.1 yards per attempt. This season, Petras a 56% completion rate, 6 yards per attempt. Minnesota improved to 7-3 with their 31-3 home win at Northwestern. Golden Gophers posted 366 yards, 302 rushing on 58 carries. Defensively, they held the Wildcats to under 4 yards per rush with 206 passing on 32 attempts. Tanner Morgan, doubtful. Ethan Kalakmanis completed 54% of his passes with 4.9 yards per attempt. On the season, Kalakmanis, a 46% completion rate with 7.9 yards per attempt. Now, both defenses in great form, but Iowa better against the run the past 3 games. But a backup quarterback for Minnesota facing this good Hawkeyes defense concern. The play here will be Iowa plus the 2.5. Western Kentucky versus Auburn college football pick Saturday. Western Kentucky sits at 7-4 with that 45-10 home win to Rice. Hilltoppers put up 495 yards with 118 rushing on 22 carries. Defensively, they allowed 4 yards per rush to the Owls with 161 passing on 29 attempts. Austin Reed completed about 70% of his passes, 11.4 yards per attempt. He threw for 377 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. Season to date, Reed a 68% completion rate, 8.1 yards per attempt. Auburn 4-6 with their 13-10 home win to Texas A&M. Tigers gained 330 yards, 270 rushing on 55 carries. Defensively, they limited the Aggies to nearly 4 yards per rush with 121 passing on 36 attempts. Robbie Ashford completed 46% of his passes, 4.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 60 yards, a touchdown, and interception on the year. Ashford a 50% completion rate, 6.9 yards per attempt. Tigers offense has struggled this season. Even in the non-conference, they beat San Jose State, but not really by much here, just 24-16. I would rate Western Kentucky's offense better. On the road, Western Kentucky's offense is averaging 494 yards, and their defense holding teams to 3.5 yards per rush. The play here will be Western Kentucky +6. Cincinnati versus Temple, college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Cincinnati 8-2 with their 27-25 home win to East Carolina. Bearcats gained 310 yards with 66 rushing on 26 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 5.5 yards per rush to ECU with 280 passing on 46 attempts. Ben Bryant completed a season-low 47% completions, 8.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. On the year, Bryant a 62% completion rate with 8 yards per attempt. Temple 3-7 after their 43-36 road defeat at Houston. Owls posted 533 yards with 47 rushing on 26 carries. Defensively, they surrendered nearly 8 yards per rush to the Cougars with 289 passing on 40 attempts. E.J. Warner completed 71% of his passes, 8.2 yards per attempt. He passed for 486 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the year, Warner a 59% completion rate, 6.8 yards per attempt. Bearcats defense not as good as in seasons past. On the road, they allow 374 yards, 6.6 yards per attempt. Freshman quarterback for the Owls has shown improvement. The play here will be Temple at +17. FIU versus UTEP, college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. FIU moved to 4-6 with their 52-7 home defeat to FAU. Golden Panthers gained 277 yards with 203 rushing on 38 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 4.5 yards per rush to the Owls with 104 passing on 34 attempts. Grayson James completed 34% of his passes, a season-low 2.2 yards per attempt. On the year, James a 59% completion rate, 5.6 yards per attempt. UTEP fell to 4-6 after their 37-30 road defeat at Rice. Miners posted 313 yards in this one, 154 rushing on 36 carries. Gavin Hardison injured his leg and left the game on the season. Hardison a 52% completion rate with 6.5 yards per attempt. Calvin Brownholtz completed 70% in relief, 5.6 yards per attempt. This season, Brownholtz a 67% completion rate with 6.3 yards per attempt. Now, the Golden Panthers defense, the past 3 games, allowing 483 yards, 4.7 yards per rush, 7.8 yards per pass attempt. Utah pass defense in this same period giving up 254 yards, 9.8 yards per attempt. The play here will be FIU and UTEP over 51. Arkansas State versus Texas State, college football pick for Saturday. Arkansas State improved to 3-7 with their 35-33 home win to Massachusetts. Red Wolves gained 275 yards, 133 rushing on 24 carries. On defense, Arkansas State allowed over 3 yards per rush with 307 passing yards on 43 attempts. James Blackman completed 55%, 7.9 yards per attempt. He threw for 142 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. On the year, Blackman a 66% completion rate with 7.4 yards per attempt. Texas State drops to 3-7 after their 38-21 road defeat at South Alabama. Bobcats produced 230 yards, 87 of it rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, they allowed under 3 yards per rush to the Jaguars with 274 passing yards on 34 attempts. Lane Hatcher completed 57% of his passes with a season-low 3.4 yards per attempt. He finished with 143 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. On the year, Hatcher a 63% completion rate with 6.1 yards per attempt. Prefer Blackman of these 2 quarterbacks, and his form is better. Past 3 games, Bobcats gained only 280 yards, 2.7 yards per rush. The play here will be on Arkansas State at +6. That was our college football pick show here for action on Well, for actually part 4 for week 12, and we'll have more picks come up later this afternoon with NBA, college basketball, and a lot more live shows. Be sure to like and subscribe, and of course check out our site tonyspeaks.com for our best bets for today. I'm Tony T, back later with more picks.